Welcome to the installation and operating procedures for a UFS TrueFlux UF system. While certain characteristics may differ from one system to the next, this video will be used as a visual aid to properly show how qualified personnel may conduct a safe and proper installation. Before any procedures can begin, it is important to adhere to all safety procedures and regulations mandated by your company. Should you need assistance with any procedures, please refer to all warning, safety, and installation instructions found in the operational manual and checklist guide for this system. Your UF machine has been assembled and tested. It was then match-marked prior to disassembly for packing, crating, and shipment. A list of minimum system requirements by UFS, as well as the equipment by others, can be found in the operational manual supplied with this unit. The TrueFlux system will typically be shipped in one or more crates based upon the overall length of the skid and any special customer requirements for handling at the job site. The UF elements are always shipped loose and are typically in cardboard boxes. These boxes are placed on a wood skid and then shrink-wrapped or placed on a separate wood skid. Carefully move the crates and shipping skids as close to the final resting place as possible. Begin to remove the plywood skirting that surrounds the lower portion of the wood crate assembly. Remove the plastic sheeting that covered the upper portion of the assembly. Use scissors to cut the beige, clear, or white-colored nylon tie wraps. Take care not to cut anything else when performing this step. Match marks are used to identify the pieces that need to be reassembled. These are typically black letters or letters with a number on a yellow label. Set aside any loose PVC piping that may have been attached to the frame to protect it during shipment in a clean and safe working environment. Use a 9/16" socket to remove the lag screws that secure the metal skids to the 4x4 wood skids. Note there are rubber isolators between the mounting points on the skids. Throw these away, as the UF machine is not meant to be mounted on rubber isolators. Do not remove any protective tape applied to fluid parts until you are ready to make various connections. When you are ready, take care when removing any protective tape to avoid losing any O-rings that may be pushed into a gland cavity. Check your field assembly drawing to see what your UF machine is to look like, and place the assemblies in their approximate location. If your TrueFlux system came in 2 skids, groove clamps require a gasket to cover the pipe joint. It is important to make sure the appropriate gasket is already in place before the 2 skids are moved together. If you do not place the gasket in first, you will have to move the skids apart in order to place the gasket in its proper location. If your UF machine is large enough and requires that it be split for shipment or movement in your plant, or if you ordered a CIP system or other options, then you will have to locate the individual skids as required. The ideal location should have adequate space of 150 centimeters or 60 inches on each of the sides of the UF machine for maintenance. Check to make sure there is adequate headroom of 1.5 meters or 5 feet above the top cap for removal of the UF elements from the UF module. Place the A UF rack, usually with ED paint connection flanges, in its proper location. Next, if your UF rack was made in 2 parts, place B UF rack next to Unit A and ensure the appropriate match marks are lined up, and each pipe joint that requires a groove clamp already has the groove clamp gasket that can be slid into place. It is extremely important to not proceed with the assembly of any of the loose items until the unit or units have been put into place and leveled. Use large C-clamps where UF Rack Unit A and UF Rack Unit B are joined, and also where UF Rack Unit B and the CIP unit are spaced apart by the width of the wood spacers. Start the leveling process at the highest corner by running a bubble level completely around the C-channel frame perimeter of the UF machine and CIP. Add shims as required at one of the adjacent corners to the high corner. Move to the next corner and shim as required. Continue until you are back at the high corner again. Double-check completely around and on the top flange of the 8 cm or 3-inch C-channel with the bubble level. Readjust the shims as required. Use a concrete drill bit to drill a 7 cm or 3-inch deep hole at each of the corners of each skid. If the floor is steel, create a weld bead every 2 feet or so, or as required once all the shims are in place. Also, weld the shims so they cannot be removed. Insert a 12.7 mm or 1/2-inch diameter concrete floor anchor into each drilled hole. Place the washer over the top threaded portion of the anchor. Then attach the nut. Use an appropriate socket to tighten as required to secure the skids to the concrete floor. Make sure the shims are still in place and the skids are all level. Secure the shims permanently so they will not come loose or can be removed. Adjustment and misalignment of piping, pre-filter vessels, the UF housing, and other connections may occur during installation of the machine. Refer to the Getting Started UF manual at all times to carefully adjust all necessary connections. Be sure to properly tighten the groove clamp hardware. Tighten bolts alternately and equally, maintaining metal-to-metal contact at the bolt pads, and tighten securely. Excessive tightening is not necessary. Uneven tightening may cause a gasket to pinch. Lubricate the outside gasket with glycerin to avoid pinching. If some of the inlet and outlet piping to the UF modules and PF vessels are not level, or the PF or UF housing are not vertical or true, adjustment is needed to be level. The goal is to have the inlet piping to the UF module, outlet piping from the UF manifold, and the ED paint manifold level and square to each other. If not done properly, it is likely that a leak will occur. As stated before, some loose subassemblies came with your machine. Ensure all O-rings are firmly in place and have not fallen off or been lost. Replace any O-rings that are missing. Some items have to be installed once the UF system has been set in place and secured to the floor. Remove any packaging or tape used to keep a connection point free of dust or dirt. Locate the gear-operated butterfly valves for both True Velocity ED paint manifolds. Install one of these on each of the paint manifolds. Position the valve indicator arrow so that it can be read without the use of a stepladder or getting on your knees. Follow proper bolt tightening procedures to make sure the bolts are all tightened evenly at the same time. Locate the permeate discharge ball valve. Install it so the lever can be opened and closed with no interference. Follow proper bolt tightening procedures to make sure the bolts are all tightened evenly at the same time. If you have a ball valve, locate the valve and screw it onto the end of the permeate manifold. Locate the integral True Velocity manifold bypass assembly and secure with 2 by 1.5-inch groove clamps. Locate the permeate discharge flow meter piping assembly for each UF module. Make sure the O-rings are installed as required. Use your hand to tighten the union on the bottom side of the flow meter assembly. If you use a tool, you can break this flow meter. Repeat these steps for each UF module. Locate the cleaning supply line piping and attach the piping to the supply pipe on the UF rack. Attach the piping to the filter vessel on the CIP. Locate the clean return and discharge 3/4 inch piping. Install the Vitalic 1.5 inch clamp. Install the 90-degree pipe to the end of the clean return. Place the 1.5 inch clamp to hold it in place and level. Locate the permeate clean return and discharge to drain piping. And attach the 1/2 inch union and secure. Then attach the 1/2 inch union to the discharge side. Attach the 1/2 inch 90-degree piping to the permeate clean return. Locate the CIP permeate fill piping. And attach it to the true union ball valve. Make sure all piping and connections are level. Do not turn the pressure gauges. Contact a UFS representative if the gauges do not point in the proper direction. Refer to the operational manual's valve schematic and open the proper valves as indicated. To begin the CIP checkout procedures, close the CIP panel and secure it. Turn on the motor. The amber light should be illuminated, indicating power is supplied to the CIP control panel. If not, check the connections at the transformer and the green light. The pump motor was previously tested. Add hot water, greater than 50 degrees Celsius or 100 degrees Fahrenheit, to the filter vessel to cover the temperature sensor. The red lamp should light up, indicating the high temperature limit has been tripped. Place a thermometer in the vessel and record the temperature when the red lamp goes off. The default temperature value is 49 degrees Celsius or 120 degrees Fahrenheit and should not be changed under any circumstances. If the temperature of the UF element exceeds these temperatures, then irreversible damage can occur. As long as the temperature is above about 46 degrees Celsius or 115 degrees Fahrenheit, which can be lowered and cooling times lengthened after some experience working with the UF system, the cooling water solenoid valve should be open and the blue light should be on. Record the temperature when the solenoid valve is closed as the blue light goes off. The low temperature set point is 46 degrees Celsius or 115 degrees Fahrenheit. If you want to lower this set point, then please refer to the manual for the temperature controller in the back of the operational manual. Remember, the default temperature value is 46 degrees Celsius or 115 degrees Fahrenheit. Turn on the motor and open the panel door. Only a qualified electrician who is knowledgeable about electrical safety matters should perform this function. Manually trip the motor starter to simulate a high temperature event. Check to make sure the motor turns off. Reset the motor starter and confirm that the pump can operate normally. Check the Y strainer for any dirt or PVC shavings that may be inside the piping section and clean thoroughly. If there is trouble, refer to the operational manual and checklist guide, or contact your UFS representative. Place a new filter bag in the CIP bag filter vessel. Close off all drain valves. Close off the ED paint supply manifold and the ED paint return manifold butterfly valves V9 and V10. Make sure all the ED isolation valves are opened to and from the UF modules. Note, the UF elements cannot be installed before the initial leak testing is completed. Fill the CIP tank with water. Be prepared to turn this source back on quickly, as the CIP pump will be used to fill up all the piping prior to the start of the leak check. Open valve V8 and throttle valve V7. Place a bucket underneath the return manifold purge valve and purge all air. Turn on the CIP pump and be prepared to keep the CIP tank full of DI or RO water. The CIP tank level will go down quickly. The purpose here is twofold. First, the inside of the piping needs to be flushed and cleaned out. The second purpose is to perform a leak check. Close permeate valves V30 and V13 once a clear stream of water is coming out. Close air purge valve V18 once there is evidence that all the air has been ejected. No water should be escaping now. Deadhead the CIP pump only until the pressure gauge on the ED paint supply manifold reaches a maximum. Close the CIP pump discharge valve V7 and immediately turn off the CIP pump. Record the pressure shown on the ED paint supply manifold pressure gauge and recheck every 15 minutes for 1 hour. If there is an obvious leak, work to adjust and stop the leak as required. If the pressure gauge shows a significant leak, but no leak is found, repeat the test and make sure the CIP discharge valve is fully closed. If the UF machine is being installed in a new ED paint system, the typical procedure is to perform a cleaning with a strong caustic, high pH cleaner. If caustic cleaner is used, read the safety label and wear the appropriate protective clothing and eyewear. Be prepared to rinse out the eyes of a person who is splashed. Ask that person if they wear contacts, and these too must be removed as part of the effort to rinse away the caustic. Contact your safety department for more detailed instructions. Once the system is cleaned and flushed, you must take a sample of the water used to flush out the UF machine and submit it to your ED paint supplier to ensure that there are no contaminants still inside the UF machine. Use your Tiger Mag EP flow meter or a portable flow meter to confirm the total flow available before any UF elements are installed. Valve VP2 should be open, and V9 and V10 should be closed. Each UF element needs 85 gallons per minute, or GPMs, of paint flow to operate properly. To calculate the number of elements that can be installed in your system, take the total flow of your system, divide it by 85 GPM, and this will give you this number. Now it is time to install the UF elements into the housing before the UF system is turned on for the first time. Prior to installing a new element, check all seals and O-rings for damage and replace as needed. All seals and O-rings should be wetted with approved lubricant or water before installation. Disconnect the permeate flow meters. Remove each 8-inch Vitalic clamp. Remove the 1.5-inch Vitalic clamp. Pull down the 8-inch gasket on the housing. Remove from the shipping box the adapters for the element. Remove the element from its packaging. The spiral element is shipped with 2 different bypass seals due to various housing configurations. Remove one seal as required. Use glycerin to lubricate the element and adapter. Install the bottom adapter first if required. Use glycerin to lube the inside bore of the UF housing. The spiral element is slippery, so it may take 2 people to install. Lower the new element into the housing in a controlled manner. Filling 1/4 of the housing with water to cushion the element while lowering it during the installation will help in avoiding dropping the element. The element should hang in the housing via the bypass seal. Push the lip of the bypass seal evenly into the housing. If water is being used to cushion the element's descent, it will need to be drained out at this point so that the element will bottom out at the permeate plug. Inspect the seal position, and if it appears the lip of the seal has rolled over, remove the element and repeat the installation. While pushing down, twist the end cap back and forth until it is seated enough to install the gasket and clamp. Lubricate the top cap adapter and insert it on the element. Lubricate the inside of the top cap housing and attach it to the element housing. Replace the 8-inch gasket and lubricate as needed. Replace the housing and secure it with the necessary bolts. Replace the 1.5-inch Vitalic clamp and secure with their proper bolts. Tighten all bolts to secure, but do not over-tighten. Be sure all O-rings are in place and properly installed with the flow meter on the element and UF piping. Refer to your operator checklist to follow double flushing of an element sequence and normal startup. It is important to review the TrueFlux UF system valve locations by using the drawing in the back of the operations guide to identify the appropriate valve locations. Never operate the UF module with either of the permeate valves closed. Permeate must never be deadheaded in the UF element. To do so risks blistering the UF membrane, or blowing a glue seam, or delaminating the UF membrane. If this happens, the UF element is ruined and the warranty is voided. In all circumstances, never deadhead a UF element. Keep in mind that on starting a sequence, the outlet should be open first, the inlet second. On closing, the inlet is closed first, the outlet second. In the event of a power outage, immediately refer to the operator's checklist, Procedures for Abnormal Shutdown. For information concerning spare parts, cleaning, and other maintenance procedures, information can be found in the operational manual and checklist guide for this system. This concludes the installation and operating procedures for a UFS ultrafiltration system.